was essentially a well-planned farce. The people's voting rights, democratic values and the spirit of the constitution were completely disregarded in this deceptive voterless election conducted without the Awami League, she says. From the evening of 11th February, this farce began with the seizure of polling centers, gunfire, vote buying, distribution of money, stamping of ballots and agents signing result sheets. By the morning of 12th February, voter turnout was negligible in most polling centers nationwide. In the many centers across the capital and other areas, there were no voters at all. So she's called it a total farce. She said there were no voters at all because of the fact that there was brazen disruption there. And according to the Election Commission's briefing, voter turnout until 11 a.m. within 3.5 hours was only 14.96%. This low participation at the peak of voting period proves that public boycotted and rejected this election without the Awami League. It should be noted that in recent days there were continuous attacks, arrests, intimidation and an atmosphere of fear targeting Awami League voters, supporters and well-wishers and minority communities in an attempt to forcibly take them to polling stations. In this situation, we demand the cancellation of this voterless, illegal and unconstitutional election, the resignation of Yunus, the withdrawal of the false cases and the release of all political prisoners. So are these elections nothing but a charade run by propped up radicals who have taken full control of Bangladesh's democracy? That's the big question. Mohammad Ali Siddiqui, Secretary General Bangladesh Human Rights Watch with us, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra with us and Arun Anand, columnist, also with us. My namaste to everybody. Thank you for your time. Mohammad Siddiqui Saab,
yes.
Do you agree and concur with what Sheikh Hasina ji is saying? And do these pictures that we're getting from Bangladesh underline and prove what she's claiming?
Yes, this is the national 13th election with the so-called referendum. Proven already, it is a farce, brazen, sham election, as Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina mentioned. You showed a lot of videos, footage, and the incidents happen all over the country. Tons of, proven documentations already on the social media. The thing is, the people rejected this vote as it proven, even though the mass intimidation, the ballot stuffing, paying the money out to the people is in large numbers. Especially the manipulation and the bribery is unprecedented happened. Some incident happened in northern district, especially Thakurgaon district. The Jamaat Amir got caught with 77 lakhs of the money he was carrying to. Such other ways, Jamaati leaders was distributing money, purchasing votes, forcing the Awami Leagues and the minority voters not to come to the poll center, or by pushing them to cast their votes. So these are the ways. This is, I think, the historical is a black mark would be in the history of this election. Especially, I would like to mention the thing that Professor Muhammad Yunus mentioned with this thing, that this is a fantastic day for him, that he was declared earlier that could be unprecedented day of the history. It is like his DMP commissioner, Dhaka Metropolitan Police Commissioner himself confessed to the media that he was unable to cast their vote. Thousands of voters, when they approached to the voter center, they were refused to cast their vote because the assigned officer saying that your vote already casted. So the procedure in the country that every voter should be issued a ballot paper showing their national ID card, NID card.
Yeah.
How come the others casted their votes? This is one thing. The another thing, that previously in 2018 votes,
Ji.
Awami League was blamed that the vote were casted night before. So there were no single evidence to the media. Now, I think millions of evidences now proven that night before all the Jamaati activists,
Yeah.
including the military officers,
Yeah.
when they assigned police officers, BNP people were casting the vote at night, entered into the polling center. And the reality was showing to the field that, at the noon of the voting day were empty. Some of the military officers are playing cricket on the field. Most of the school field were totally empty, no line of the voters, and they fictitiously premeditated a result plan they declared. And the election commission already, you mentioned that the first 3.5 hours, 14.96% vote casted. And next 1 hour, single hour, they were showing 32.8% vote casted. It is impossible. It is unimaginable that these numbers of the vote casted over there. It is a fictitious number. And I think the whole nation rejected this.
If that's the case,
manipulated.
who will take the call to disqualify these elections? Who will take, because it's a free-for-all. It's those people who have called for the elections who are allowing all of this to pass. Although there were cops to try and stop the Jamaatis in some places, BNP officers have been burnt, Mohammad Ali Siddiqui. Who's going to take the call to reject these elections and to rescind these elections or cancel them?
We need to wait a little bit longer because when the final results going to come out to the media, I think if the defeated party, especially BNP, seeing that they lose this election, they might gonna protest strongly. Definitely, Awami League, like 7 to 8 crore voters, they did not turn out to the polling centers. Definitely, the party head, Sheikh Hasina, and the other leaders already declared they rejected this vote. And the people of Bangladesh, finally, I believe, they will come out and to reject this manipulated and meticulous designed election done by Muhammad Yunus.
No, really, because the sanction ambassador Rajiv Dogra seems to have come with the trade deal that has been signed between the US and the Bangladesh interim government. That whatever happens will be accepted and it's palatable.
Well, earlier we used to hear that in North Korea or Libya or Iraq or Soviet Union or one of the East communist countries, the leaders won by 110% votes. In this case, it seems that they might sweep the votes altogether and it will be close to 120%. And I must compliment Muhammad Yunus, the chief executive officer of Bangladesh, in meticulous planning, because I had not heard of this new method that videograph your vote, show me the vote, and I'll give you the money. Now, my thoughts are with the poor voter who has done all this, videographed and so on. When he comes out and the local Jamaat-e-Islami representative says, I have pocketed the money, I have seen your video, now go to it. So, while they are doing everything possible to intimidate the voter, to ensure that even before he reaches the polling booth, his vote is cast, so he need not take that trouble. The fact is that it is not just Muhammad Yunus who's doing it. He has some inspiration behind him. One is Jamaat-e-Islami, of course, but more than that, as you pointed out, is America involved? Otherwise, what was the need of entering into a trade agreement highly favorable to Bangladesh, especially on textiles, just a few days before the elections? They knew that Muhammad Yunus would rubber stamp whatever they want. Jamaat-e-Islami is also their creation, America's creation, but they cannot be absolutely sure that Jamaat-e-Islami may not then turn against America because of the very nature of its mandate. So I think America is largely responsible for what has happened in Bangladesh and what is happening in Bangladesh. But what may happen in Bangladesh could very well turn out to be against America's interests ultimately. But coming to the elections as such, I hope Bangladesh has enough courage, and people of Bangladesh have enough courage if they could gather a couple of months earlier or a year earlier against Sheikh Hasina. I hope they would be able to gather against a very unfair election which goes against their own interests and against their own development and freedom. But the path ahead is not so simple, because even those protests, the Muhammad Yunus government would have taken note of and taken care of. So it's unlikely that there will be a spontaneous movement immediately. What happens after 6 months, we have to wait and see.
The larger question is that there is supposed to be a machinery that allows the state to continue to function despite whatever disruption on the face of it. So the army, the police, the administrative services, the bureaucracy that included, the banking, financial services, this is all the backbone of any nation functioning. Are they okay with what is going on, Arun Anand? Because we do see cops trying to come in, we do see cops trying to stop the Jamaatis and some of these radical elements and all of that. But how much of it is going to actually fructify into a system where there is a certain level of participation that is there, and it is participatory democracy, despite the fact that an Awami League has been excluded?
See, Anand, to answer your question, one has to understand actually the administrative structure of Bangladesh. Despite being a parliamentary democracy, it is slightly different from if you do a comparison with India. So that is why this election has significant implication, that it is not only of capturing the central government, it amounts to capturing the whole of Bangladesh. Like in India, you have, the states which are constitutionally recognized bodies.
Right.
But Bangladesh, there are no states. There are basically, kind of divisions and districts and, upzilas. And these are administrative units. They don't have an elected chief minister. They don't have elected legislatures. They are the divisional commissioners and the, administrative heads. They are appointed by the central government, and they are only accountable to the central government. So once you capture the Bangladesh, so you have captured basically, the whole system. So that is why one has to look at it from this perspective also. Second, ever since Yunus regime took over, so in one of your earlier program also had mentioned, so there is an organization called Hizb ut-Tahrir.
Yes.
So Tahrir has played a very significant role in ensuring that all these, whether it is the banking system or the army or the police, so all these are infiltrated by the radical Islamists, and a large number, you have also interviewed on your program and news interviewed several such people, that a lot of good people who could oppose it in bureaucracy, they have, or in banking system, or the businessmen, they are now living in exile. So they have already been forced to move from there. So I think, there will not be that much of basically a resistance. It's a complete capture of the power which is going to happen. The only resistance which can come from, it is from basically BNP. And though it seems a far-fetched idea, but probably BNP and Awami League might have to join their hands again, as they had done earlier against, the military regime.
But is that possible? Will the BNP and Awami League ever join hands, Mohammad Ali Siddiqui? Because the allegation is that the BNP was kept out by the Awami League. One of the fallacies or problems in Bangladesh is that there is no robust opposition that can keep the radicals out. And we see the trend, what is happening. The other aspect is the overt involvement of the Pakistanis and the ISI here. And somewhere, are you worried that there is an American sanction to all of this, or the American deep state, CIA sanction to this?
I think the people of Bangladesh are, seriously worried, and some consequences might gonna happen pretty soon, as you mentioned, that the BNP leaders who are dreaming to go to power easily, that I don't know what the consequence might gonna happen soon, right after the result declared by the Election Commission. It seems to me that the authority, the intelligence authority of the military, DGFI, they issued an order which was released to the media that the Director General of the DGFI announced 75% of the seats should be declared winning for Jamaat-e-Islami. It was issued on 3rd of February 2026. So the another meticulous design was published by the secret documents of Jamaat-e-Islami that 32 DC, 32 district DC out of 64 were distributed, bribed money to them, 1,087 crore and 31 lakhs was delivered through their district leaders to them to declare the manipulated result. So figure it out that 50% of the districts, if manipulated by this sham election result, that definitely Jamaat might gonna show their winning card. So if that situation perceived, definitely BNP shouldn't have any other way to come to Awami League and start protesting or negotiating. Let's forgive and forget these election results, then overthrow the illegitimate occupational force of Muhammad Yunus's government. The other thing is that the radical Islamist groups, they are dreaming to come to power by the Western countries, as they mentioned the other the co-participants. There is a big probability, because that's the way only Muhammad Yunus could stay in power and could hold the highest position as the president of the state, and he could comply with all the necessary demands by the Westerns, those who put him as a puppet of this country. As you mentioned, that all the trade deals, their askings of the regional interest, and something could be fulfilled by Muhammad Yunus only. They could put this puppet government supported by this radical Islamist group as well.
Well, there are a lot of probabilities. In this case, what if the Jamaat is very, very smart, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra? They allow, BNP a farcical win, but they continue to be a far robust opposition, and they by default start dictating what is going to happen in Bangladesh. They are in government in the upper house. They control perhaps somehow somewhere bulk of the Gunner vote, but they sit in opposition and they make the BNP dance. And over the next 5 years, radicalize Bangladesh to an extent that it's goodbye BNP, goodbye Awami League.
Well, exactly, Anand. In fact, it's not just one simple election. There's another rider attached to that election. When people go to vote, they also vote for a referendum.
Yeah.
Let me remind your viewers that earlier there were 3 referendums held in Bangladesh. They were single point referendums, and people voted yes or no. And they related to matters like, term of the president and so on. So some of those referendums were nullified soon thereafter. But this referendum is wide sweeping because it has a number of issues, including institutional reforms, so-called reforms, and affects judiciary, sets up a upper house of the parliament, and many other issues, some of which people may have no knowledge of as to what they are voting for. And then a constituent assembly for these constitutional changes will be set up. Again, it could be entirely staffed by Jamaat-e-Islami with a token BNP presence, or the other way around. That would make no difference because they have already decided that Bangladesh is going to be an authoritarian state, be it Muhammad Yunus or Jamaat-e-Islami that is in power. And what Mr. Siddiqui is referring to, that BNP and Awami League could come together, there's a precedent to that. They had come together and very forcefully earlier with positive results. They overthrew the dictator of the time, Muhammad Irshad, if I'm not mistaken. Now, whether they'll be able to come together, because it's not just a Bangladeshi dictator, there are 2 other outside forces which are very powerful, which have a lot of money, which is flowing into the elections and Bangladesh generally, America and ISI.
Right.
So situation is complex, is complicated, and it could have strategic effect not just on India but the region around it, Myanmar, for example. So let's keep our fingers crossed and let's hope that Bangladeshi people realize that they are in for troubled times.
Because this is also a recipe for a perennial civil war, somewhere fragmentation, balkanization of Bangladesh, and it allows the Americans to seed themselves in further in Bangladesh. They've always coveted and eyed this area, be it the Saint Martin Islands or more hold around in the Sundarban region, islands there, or somehow or the other they want a particular spot there. And Arun Anand, how is it that Bharat has allowed this to pass? Does it escape Bharat's attention that in the long run, if this radicalization of Bangladesh happens, we have double trouble or multiple trouble in our eastern border, far greater than what we see in our western borders?
Anand, the radicalization in Bangladesh actually started within a couple of years after Bangladesh got independence. And we know basically, then there were subsequent military dictatorships, and during that time, it further got radicalized, and in fact, it became Islamic Republic of Bangladesh officially also. So that radicalization has been there, and that's why. And one more important point, basically, India has a limited role to play in the sense that. Because it's a neighboring country, and so you can't go basically beyond a point. We are not like United States of America, basically that we go to Venezuela, pick up somebody, and bring that person back to us. So we have a different set of values. So we have a limited scope in terms of this thing. My only concern is that. Whether Jamaat comes to power or whether BNP comes to power, the Hindus of Bangladesh and the other minorities of Bangladesh, so they are definitely going to be at the receiving end, especially at the hands of Jamaat. The BNP's record has also not been very good as far as protecting Hindus and other minorities. So I think the Indian government will have to play a proactive role, in that context. We can't leave the Hindus of Bangladesh to defend for themselves. We have to play a proactive role about it.
If one is the Muslim Brotherhood, the other is the Hamas. That's how somebody described the BNP and the Jamaat in terms of their tonality and how they are behaving and what their actions are. Mohammad Ali Siddiqui, how do you see the next 6 to 8 months pass, irrespective of which way the election goes, whether in favor of BNP or the Jamaat?
My feeling, it would be a very dusty and cloudy sky to the Bangladesh due to this, this so-called farcical election by the intimidation of the voters, vandalization, bribery, extortion, rigging, and the staged drama. If peoples could not put their opinion to the table, it should not be a peaceful aftermath of this election. I just want to quote one little thing that one of the Jamaat, George's candidate in the Dhaka city, Dhaka seat number 8, were contesting with one of the big leader of BNP, Mirza Abbas. So his opponent, Nasiruddin Patwari, declared that BNP will be eliminated from Bangladesh soon. Even he got defeated. So publicly this kind of threat come out from the chief of the Jamaat-e-Islami earlier. He mentioned this similar way, either people vote or no vote. The Jamaat should go to the power, no matter what. So this is undemocratic confession, proven how the Westerns are pushing towards put this brotherhood type.
My question is, the West does not control the state machinery. Who is allowing this to pass? There is somebody who's pulling the strings and who's keeping the tap going to say, let this happen, let this continue to happen, let this nation go into rot and get into the hands of the radicals, because that serves perhaps a greater goal for that particular entity. That's where it is. And there is another entity who's been, meddling and who's been interfering.
Bangladesh, the BNP, led by Tariq Rahman, has secured a massive win in the national elections, winning over 210 seats, also surpassing Jamaat-e-Islami's 70-odd seats. Tariq Rahman, son of former Prime Minister Khaleda, won one from two constituencies. Interestingly, Tariq Rahman has called for BNP supporters to abstain from celebratory rallies. Instead, has asked them to hold prayers across the country. A lot of reactions coming in from across the world. The Prime Minister congratulating Tariq Rahman, also emphasizing better India-Bangladesh ties. He said, and I quote him here, India will continue to stand in support of a democratic, progressive and inclusive Bangladesh. The US envoy, in the meanwhile, also praised the historic victory. He said the US looks forward to working for shared goals of prosperity and security. Pakistan President too congratulated Rahman on BNP's landslide victory. Those are the comments that have come in from the neighborhood, from the West. However, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, currently in exile, rejected the results, called it well-planned farce, unconstitutional, also demanded cancellation of the elections and the interim government's resignation. CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh has been reporting from Dhaka. She gets you these first reactions on the results of the national elections in the country. Listen in.
Early morning, a sense of victory. BNP has declared victory. Has Bangladesh seen a change? That's the first big question I'm going to ask you. It's been an election which has had multiple implications on it.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
Yes, it was a long desert election for the people of our country, Bangladesh. Long desert, because it's the history of 17 years, at least 17 years, where the people of this country were tortured by the fascist government of Hasina, right? So it was expected, and the day is already gone. Yesterday, the elected government will come. It is going to be finalized.
So what do you think should be the priority of the new government?
Priority should be the mismanagement in economics, mismanagement of the administration, mismanagement of the judiciary. This should be corrected first. And at the same time, the desire of the margin people of this country who are very poor, who earns their dailywoods from hand to mouth.
Yes.
Right. So their focus should be this portion of the people first.
What about India and Bangladesh? You think those ties need to improve now, and there's hope with the BNP coming to power?
Yes, we always expect the improvement, the relation of Bangladesh and India. It's true. But how? You know the international journalists you are, you know everything. What behavior they are providing to Bangladesh and Bangladesh people, not the people, but the government-to-government relation with the Indian government.
But the people-to-people relationship.
People-to-people relation will be the better, the best way to have improved the relation of these two countries.
So, what would you say is the reason why the BNP has won over here? Is it because of the student support? Is it because of the women voted for them?
Feeling for this party is now was very much expected by every people. But everybody loved BNP because they have got a history of generational history. Yeah.
Okay, what about the youth? What is it that the young people are happy about the results and about the elections in Bangladesh?
Thank you. Basically, last election, young people made the result. You have to understand.
Yes.
Because
so the elections are because of the young people.
Obviously, because you know the portion of youth is too much high in this election. So that's why I will say, I want to say, the result of this election comes from the youth. So you simply understand.
So what is it that the youth wants now that you have a new government? What would you want the new government to do?
Our expectation is to zero corruptions and no violence and continuous political process, peaceful process, and good relations with our region also, with international community also. This is our expectations, and focusing all the branches of state should be high and high. no low efficiency in any departments of the state, because this continuously happened in last 17 years in Bangladesh. So we want this should not be repeat again and again.
The first two voices we are getting from the ground about what they look at a new Bangladesh.
And shifting our focus to a CNN News 18 mega exclusive. We're tracking details on areas where the Jamaat has swept the elections and why this matters for India. Let's give you a few names. Satkhira, Kushtia, parts of Kulna belt of West Bengal facing the border, the Rangpur region which have emerged as Jamaat stronghold clusters as Jamaat gains influence locally. Do remember the straight implication of this is Hindu minorities in border districts feeling the pressure first. They will be in the trap of land disputes, intimidation, silent displacement, even small migration waves into India will amplify communal polarization and political stress in border states. Stop and tell sources assessing this as a threat escalation where ideology, recruitment and logistics mature slowly before any kinetic action. And no overt ISI footprint, but familiar financial and ideological channels are reactivating through several NGOs, through charities, through the diaspora routes, and this is a classic deniability playbook. For more on this, I do want to bring in CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh into the conversation. Akanksha Swaroop continues to stay on with us as well. Pallavi, as is minorities in Bangladesh, you know, they were facing electoral intimidation. There was radicalized violence in the run-up to voting from the 9th to the 12th. How does the equation change in some of these bordering regions where Jamaat has had an upper hand this election?
Well, these are very, very concerning kind of reports coming in, which has been put out by Manoj Gupta. We'll also have to understand the demography of it. If you go by the kind of campaign style and the kind of preliminary figures coming in, clearly the BNP has done very well in those areas where there's a sizable number of either young voters or they are urban voters. So Chittagong and all these areas, Dhaka, are the areas where the BNP has done well. But what would be worrying for India is that Khulna, Rangpur, now these are the areas which has a large number of both the minority and of course the majority population, but that is where the polarization is extreme. But even more concerning is the fact that all of them are very close to the border of India, border of West Bengal. We know that illegal immigrants is a big issue which is coming up. That is why the entire SIR exercise has been carried out. India has raised concern about the fact that how the state government of Bengal has allowed an easy or a porous border to allow these illegal immigrants to come in. Now, with the Jamaat having its control or grip in areas like Khulna, Dinajpur again, which is on the border, where there have been incidents of post-poll violence, attack on minorities, Dinajpur, Khulna, Rangpur. These are the areas where the Jamaat's intrusion, if it's complete, the Jamaat will always retaliate, and that implication can have an impact on the Bengal elections, one, and also the safety of the minorities in these areas in Bangladesh, and of course the Hindus on the other side. And that is why we are looking at these developments very, very carefully and with a lot of concern. Me, barring a few media and of course security officials, the entire street is absolutely barren. There are of course posters of the BNP and Tariqur Rahman himself, but you know, I guess his word, and these are initial hours as yet. The counting went through the night. Maybe the party workers are a little tired. Possibly after lunch or after Jummah prayers, there are going to be some amount of celebration. But for now, we are seeing no celebratory pictures at the BNP headquarters over here. It certainly has been a massive victory for the BNP, coming back to power after more than 2 decades. Of course, the Sheikh Hasina and her supporters, the Awami League, have dismissed this election as being fraudulent because they were not allowed to take part. They have also appealed to people to have boycotted elections. That clearly hasn't happened. I think the real story is also the near demise or collapse of the Jamaat. Though going in by their past performance, especially when they were in alliance with the BNP, the Jamaat Jamaat has still done little better by winning about 60 seats. That's the preliminary information that we're getting, Christine. But Jamaat was banking heavily on the support of the students. One of the parties they had aligned with is the National Citizen Party, which is the NCP, which was born out of the student uprising. The NCP has at now notched up around 6 seats. Clearly, the student vote has also been divided. I suspect, and we are going to wait for the final detailing to be out, Christine. But the two advantages which seems to have gone to a BNP, of course, has been one, the student votes, a split in the student votes, and second, a large number of women turning up. Either that's an empathy for Begum Khaleda Zia or the Tariq Rahman's outreach to women, but it clearly has clicked in favor of the BNP.
Oh yes, clearly has clicked in favor of the BJP. Very well put. Thank you, Pallavi, for that. We'll come back to you in just a bit. I do want to bring in Siddharth Mishra into the conversation as well. Awami League clearly, rejecting the election result, but this is a massive victory for the BNP. How is India looking at this victory at the moment, Siddharth? Because the next big question and the conversation in India is going to revolve around what this means for India-Bangladesh relations going forward.
Well, I would say that it's interesting and it will be challenging as well. But the ray of hope is that after the return of Tariq Rahman to Bangladesh, his pitch and his projection as the leader of BNP perhaps was very different from the traditional view.
Bangladesh, the elections officially have to be called, but US envoy to Bangladesh has congratulated Tariq Rahman. Says congratulations to the BNP and Tariq Rahman on the historic victory. The US looks forward to working with you to realize shared goals of prosperity and security for both our countries. I do want to bring in Pallavi Ghosh into the conversation. Pallavi, from an Indian perspective, one of the concerns is the possible Bangladesh-China-Pakistan nexus, and especially given the relationship India shared with Sheikh Hasina and how that dynamic changed with the Yunus government. That said, when the US coming into the picture, what do you make of this comment?
See, I think India was very worried, I would say, geopolitically speaking, because everyone wants to have a friendly neighborhood. And the coldness in the ties between India and Bangladesh, especially with Sheikh Hasina being there in India, did create a certain amount of, I would say, a concern over here. Because, when I was speaking to people during the campaign as a run-up to the elections, many would tell me this, that, you talk about having good relationships with Bangladesh. You did send S. Jaishankar, which unlike Pakistan and other countries, was a much more senior representative to send for the janaza of Begum Khaleda Zia. So clearly the message which India wanted to send out is that we want to resume warm ties with Bangladesh. But what do? You keep Sheikh Hasina with you. You also had a press conference where she uses the Indian soil as a platform to campaign against the BNP or the Yunus administration. So that is something which India wanted to tone down. Also, our concern over the fact that there were minorities, particularly the Hindus, who were being targeted. The whole illegal immigrants issue of Bangladesh to Bengal is another political issue. So over here in Bangladesh, many in the political regime felt that India was using its own political compulsions to attack Bangladesh. But for us, it is very important to have one good equations back with Bangladesh because of economic reasons. We have very strong and have had trade ties. Bangladesh itself depends a lot on India in terms of garments imports, in terms of automobile parts and so on and so forth. We also depend on Bangladesh for a market and also for the expertise. So that is why, because of pure economic reasons, India needs to resume good ties with Bangladesh. Geopolitically speaking, we cannot allow a China or a Pakistan to meddle into the affairs. We saw over even something like the cricket issue. Pakistan initially began by supporting Bangladesh and then did a U-turn. So that is why India silently, though we maintain a very strategic silence in echoing our preferences, will find it always more comfortable to do business with BNP, which certainly comes across as a more moderate alternative to Jamaat. And Tariq Anwar himself faces a lot of compulsions. Economic revival, constitutional reforms, he requires India's help. And thereby I do see a resumption of good ties between India and Bangladesh.
Okay, thank you for that, Pallavi. India will be looking at this as an opportunity for a fresh start. Siddhant, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Mr. Chaudhary, what are your thoughts there? A Pak, China, Bangladesh, nexus could weaken India's hold in South Asia, and that's not going to favor India or Bangladesh for that matter. But with Pakistan meddling the way it continues to, US is also very closely looking at the entire situation and how it's going to play out in the next few months to come. Your thoughts there?
To my understanding, for the last 18 months, what Yunus was doing, they are unelected illegal regime. But Tariq Rahman is the elected leader, BNP is an elected party. So Tariq Rahman will have to take the responsible steps. And for taking the responsible steps, in my personal opinion, we have no alternative than having good relations with India, because India is our unavoidable neighbor. We need best relations with India for many reasons. At the same time, Tariq Rahman, I believe and I do hope that Tariq Rahman will not let Bangladesh become a colony of any particular nation like Pakistan or the nation to serving the interest of China, whatever. Tariq Rahman will look for the national interest, and the national interest, for the sake of the national interest, Tariq Rahman should have, shall have very good relations with India, and the hostility that which has been continuing for the last 18 months from the Yunus side and his cabal, I think it's coming to the end. And as I mentioned again, that by Sunday or Monday, new government is going to be formed. So after that, you will also see the positive approach from the new government.
And when the people of Bangladesh, Mr. Salahuddin, have voted hoping for a change, have hoped that this change will be one for stability and one for a promising future. And the turnout kind of explains that story as well, with the verdict clearly favouring the BNP. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back. Official vote counting still underway in Bangladesh's general election, but results so far indicating a decisive victory for the BNP. The BNP and its allies have secured 213 seats in the 13th National Parliament, giving a coalition two-thirds majority and also positioning it to form the next government. BNP Chairman Tariq Rahman, contesting from two constituencies, won both the seats. In fact, one of these seats by a margin of 4,399 votes. In the meanwhile, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, speaking from exile, has rejected the election results. She described the elections as well-planned farce and unconstitutional, also calling for cancellation of the results and the resignation of the interim government. So those are the reactions that have come in so far. But let's also talk about the latest that we're hearing from the man of the moment, Tariq Rahman. His party winning majority. Tariq Rahman, though, has called for BNP supporters to abstain from celebratory rallies, with the party already on the edge of victory. That's a word of caution that's in a sense coming in from Tariq Rahman of the BNP. But what next for Bangladesh? The result clearly favouring the BNP. Nothing really in store for the Jamaat, which was the principal opposition to the BNP in the election. We will be going over to Salahuddin Chaudhary, who's a Bangladeshi journalist, in just a bit. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being with us. But allow me to quickly go over to Pallavi Ghosh. She's live outside the BNP office in Dhaka. Good morning, Pallavi. It's been interesting last few hours. A lot of drama that was witnessed through the voting hours. Finally, advantage BNP. But are celebrations already being witnessed, or are the BNP supporters taking Tariq Rahman's word of caution very seriously at the moment? What's the sense that you get this morning?
Not at all, Christine. In fact, I'm right outside the BNP headquarters in Gulshan, which in fact is just behind Tariq Rahman's residence as well. You can see the pictures around me, barring a few media and of course security officials. The entire street is absolutely barren. There are of course posters of the BNP and Tariq Rahman himself. But I guess his word, and these are initial hours as yet. The counting went through the night. Maybe the party workers a little tired. Possibly after lunch or after Jummah prayers, there are going to be some amount of celebration. But for now, we are seeing no celebratory pictures at the BNP headquarters over here. It certainly has been a massive, massive victory for the BNP. Coming back to power after more than 2 decades. Of course, the Sheikh Hasina and her supporters, the Awami League, have dismissed this election as being fraudulent because they were not allowed to take part. They have also appealed to people to have boycotted elections. That clearly hasn't happened. I think the real story is also the near demise or collapse of the Jamaat. Though going in by their past performance, especially when they were in alliance with the BNP, the Jamaat has still done little better by winning about 60 seats. That's the preliminary information that we're getting, Christine. But you know, Jamaat was banking heavily on the support of the students. One of the parties that aligned with the National Citizen Party, which is the NCP, which was born out of the student uprising. The NCP has at now notched up around 6 seats. Clearly, the student vote has also been divided. I suspect, and we are going to wait for the final detailing to be out, Christine. But the two advantages which seems to have gone to the BNP, of course, has been one, the student votes, a split in the student votes, and second, a large number of women turning up. Either that's an empathy for Begum Khaleda Zia or the Tariq Rahman's outreach to women, but it clearly has clicked in favor of the BNP.
Oh yes, clearly has clicked in favor of the BJP. Very well put. Thank you, Pallavi, for that. We'll come back to you in just a bit. I do want to bring in Siddharth Mishra into the conversation as well. Awami League clearly, you know, rejecting the election result, but this is a massive victory for the BNP. How is India looking at this victory at the moment, Siddharth? Because the next big question and the conversation in India is going to revolve around what this means for India-Bangladesh relations going forward.
Well, I would say that it's interesting and it will be challenging as well. But the ray of hope is that after the return of Tariq Rahman to Bangladesh, you know, his pitch and his projection as the leader of BNP perhaps was very different from the traditional view, the traditional outlook of BNP. In fact, in his first address after returning, perhaps he spoke about inclusivity. He spoke about how Bangladesh belongs to people of all religion and faith. And his speech was very much India neutral. Point number one. Point number two, Kritsween, since December, we have been seeing the kind of outreach or rather, you know, engagements between the Indian side and Tariq Rahman, BNP. Prime Minister Modi offered offered help to BNP when Khaleda Zia was in hospital. After which, you know, Prime Minister Modi also sent a letter to Tariq Rahman when Khaleda Zia passed away, and EMS Jaishankar was sent to Bangladesh. And there also you see, Kritsween, very interestingly, EMS Jaishankar did not meet Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus. He only met Tariq Rahman, and he handed over Prime Minister's letter to Tariq Rahman. So, you know, there has been engagement. Then Pranay Verma, the Indian High Commissioner in Dhaka, called on Tariq Rahman the other day ahead of polls. So, you know, as I said, that it's interesting, but it's also going to be challenging. But, you know, it's the same situation, Kritsween, and allow me some time. So earlier it was Sheikh Hasina's Awami League and BNP. Now, Awami League always appeared as more inclined towards India and you know, and a party and a liberal party as far as Indian view is concerned. And BNP at that time was considered as a hardliner in India. Now BNP is coming out as a liberal party.
But a lot of things have changed, Siddharth, clearly, because the Jamaat and the BNP, the Jamaat and the BNP were allies, and they were fighting the election against each other. So lots has changed ever since Sheikh Hasina was ousted in 2024. We'll come back to you. Mr. Chaudhary, thank you for patiently waiting with us. I do want to bring in Zaka Jacob into the conversation very quickly. Zaka, with this massive victory favoring the BNP in Bangladesh elections, historic in so many ways, but how do you look at, you know, the leadership going forward, BNP leadership going forward in 2026?
Well, certainly Tariq Rahman will become the next Prime Minister, no doubt about it. He is the chairman of the BNP. He's taken over the reins after the passing away of his mother, Khaleda. Now, what Siddhant was saying, I think is right. I think for India, this would be the best option in a bad scenario. I mean, this is much better than if the Jamaat were to either come to power or the Jamaat were in a position to be a kingmaker. I think India has worked with the BNP in the past, like you said, in 2005. But at that time, the BNP and the Jamaat were in a coalition. Right now, they are not. This is a massive, massive victory. Of course, the Election Commission of Bangladesh will declare the final results, but it looks like he's on course for a two-thirds majority. So India will find a way to work with Tariq Rahman. In fact, as Siddhant was saying, the Prime Minister tweeted his condolences. He sent a letter of condolence through the External Affairs Minister when he was there in Bangladesh for the funeral and the last